You don't need to transform your entire life in one day. In fact, trying to make drastic changes often leaves us overwhelmed, discouraged, and stuck. But what if the key to a better life isn't in making massive, sweeping changes? What if it's as simple as improving by just 1% every single day? Imagine the power of small, consistent steps. What if, instead of aiming for perfection or giant leaps, you simply aimed for tiny improvements each day? A little more focus, a little more effort, a little more learning. Over time, those 1% improvements add up, they compound. And before you know it, you've transformed your life. It's not about overnight success. It's about steady progress. Slow, deliberate, and consistent actions that build momentum. You see, the secret to success isn't a single big breakthrough. It's 1,000 small breakthroughs, achieved over time through daily commitment. Today, I want to show you how to enhance your life by just 1% each day. It's easier than you think, and the results will be extraordinary. Let me ask you something. Have you ever thought about the power of the small things? The tiny actions that, when repeated over time, can lead to profound change. Most people overlook these small wins, thinking they don't matter. But here's the truth. Small wins add up, and they add up faster than you think. Think about a snowflake. It's small, delicate, almost insignificant on its own. But when enough snowflakes gather together, they can create an avalanche. That's how small daily improvements work. It might not seem like much today, but a little bit of progress every day compounds over time, and eventually you'll find yourself standing at the peak of a mountain of success. You see, it's not the big leaps that lead to success, it's the little steps. The things you do consistently, day after day, that bring about the real transformation. Imagine you decide to read just 10 pages of a book every day. Seems like nothing, right? But over the course of a year, that's 3,650 pages. You'll have read several books. Books that can change your mindset, your life, your career. If you improve just 1% each day, over time you'll find yourself a completely different person. The problem is we often want fast results. We want the transformation now. And when it doesn't happen quickly, we give up. But success, the kind that lasts, doesn't happen overnight. It happens with each small decision to do better, each small commitment to improve. And here's something interesting. Those 1% improvements don't just add up linearly. They compound. It's like interest on money in a bank account. A small, consistent deposit today grows into something much larger tomorrow. The compound effect is a real, undeniable force. The small wins you rack up every day don't just accumulate. They multiply. This is why small wins matter, because over time, they lead to big wins. We often overlook the importance of these little victories, but they are the foundation of all success. It's easy to think that the only way to succeed is with a big, flashy breakthrough. But in reality, it's those quiet, consistent wins that create lasting success. You don't have to change everything about your life in one day. Start small. Start with one thing. Improve just 1% today, and then tomorrow do the same. Over time, you'll look back and be amazed at how far you've come, all because of small, consistent steps. The truth is, the compound effect is working in your favor every single day. The question is, are you working in favor of the compound effect? Let me tell you, when you start winning in small ways, you start seeing progress in every area of your life. Your relationships improve, your health improves, your career improves, and most importantly, you improve. All because you made the choice to get better by just 1% each day. It's time to start embracing the power of small wins. You don't need to wait for a grand moment of change. You don't need to wait for the perfect circumstances. Today is the day to start. And tomorrow, you'll make it 1% better. That's how it works. You may be thinking, what's the harm in skipping a day? Just one small action won't make a difference, right? Well, here's the truth. It's the small actions you neglect that build up into bigger losses over time. The 1% you fail to improve today is not just a missed opportunity, it's a step backward. When you skip one day of progress, it's easy to brush it off as harmless. It's only one day, you tell yourself. But the next day, you miss another opportunity, and then another. Over time, those missed days accumulate, and before you know it, you've fallen behind. The truth is, failure doesn't often come from one big mistake. It comes from a series of small neglects. Think about it. If you skip reading today, you don't just miss out on that day's knowledge. You miss out on the momentum. You miss out on the small improvement that could have moved you closer to your goal. But that's not all. When you skip that 1%, you begin to feel the weight of missed opportunities. The more you neglect, the easier it becomes to neglect again. It's the law of inertia. Objects at rest stay at rest. If you allow yourself to skip one day, it gets easier to skip another, and then another. Slowly but surely, you begin to drift further away from your goals. It's not always obvious in the short term, but over the long term, the cost of neglecting those small improvements becomes painfully clear. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to procrastinate? How tempting it is to delay the small things, thinking they don't matter? It's a trap. We justify our decisions, telling ourselves we'll get back to it tomorrow. But tomorrow never comes. And when tomorrow does come, we're faced with a bigger pile of tasks, a bigger mountain of work, and the weight of guilt from neglecting the small actions we once promised ourselves to complete. Small neglects aren't just about missing out on progress. They also begin to erode your discipline. When you fail to stick to your 1% improvements, you lose the habit. And without the habit, your self-control weakens. It's like an athlete who skips a training session. That one skipped session may seem insignificant, but it disrupts their rhythm, and soon they're out of shape. The same happens with your goals. The cost is not just in missed opportunities, it's in the loss of trust you have in yourself. When you stop following through on your small commitments, you begin to doubt your ability to succeed. You start thinking, if I can't even improve by 1% a day, what makes me think I can achieve anything bigger? And that's when self-doubt creeps in. What we often fail to realize is that success isn't built on grand actions. It's built on the small things we consistently do. Every day you skip, every small action you neglect, is a step away from the life you want to create. It's not just one small loss. It's a collection of small failures that add up over time. The 1% you miss today is a small loss. But tomorrow, it will be 2 losses. The day after, it's 3. The longer you neglect the small actions, the harder it becomes to make up for them. It's not impossible, but it's a lot harder to turn the ship around when it's already headed in the wrong direction. Let's be honest, no one ever plans to fail. We all start with the best intentions, but it's the small, consistent neglects that eventually derail us. We think we can afford to skip one day, but that's where we're wrong. The danger lies in thinking that one small neglect doesn't matter. The truth is, every small failure adds weight to your journey. Every missed day of reading, every skipped workout, every moment of procrastination, it all compounds. Just as small wins add up to success, small failures add up to setbacks. Over time, these small setbacks accumulate, and before you know it, they create gaps in your progress. Gaps that are harder to close as time goes on. Neglecting the 1% doesn't just mean missing out on one opportunity. It means creating a gap in your progress. And if you let that gap grow, it will eventually become a chasm, a divide so wide that getting back on track feels impossible. The longer you neglect your small improvements, the more difficult it becomes to bridge that gap. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. The key is realizing this: you can always start again. Yes, neglecting the 1% today has consequences, but it doesn't mean all is lost. You don't have to wait for a perfect moment to begin again. You can start right now. Every day is a new opportunity to make that small improvement, to get back on track, and to regain your momentum. But here's the catch. If you don't start today, the cost of neglecting your 1% will only increase. And tomorrow, you'll be even further from your goal. So don't wait. Don't let another day pass by. Start now, make that 1% improvement today, and you'll see just how powerful it can be when you decide not to neglect the small thing. The choice is yours. You can either embrace the power of small wins or let the cost of neglect pile up. The only thing standing between you and progress is the action you choose to take right now. What will it be? Let me ask you this. What kind of mindset do you have about growth? Do you see it as a one-time event or as a lifelong journey? You see, the difference between those who succeed and those who don't often comes down to one thing: their mindset. The 1% mindset. This is a mindset built on the belief that growth is a daily commitment. A commitment to continuous, incremental improvement. It's not about waiting for a big opportunity to make a change. It's about recognizing that every day holds an opportunity to grow, to become a better version of yourself. Even if that growth is just 1%. Now, the key here is understanding that 1% doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean you have to get everything right every single day. The 1% mindset is about progress, not perfection. It's about making small, steady improvements that over time lead to massive transformation. Think about it. If you commit to growing just 1% every day, it's not overwhelming. It's not a huge burden on your time or energy. It's a small decision, a small step. But those small steps add up over time, and before you know it, you've covered miles in your journey. The 1% mindset isn't about waiting for motivation to strike. It's about showing up every day, even when you don't feel like it. It's about making growth a habit, not something that only happens when the conditions are perfect. Growth happens when you decide to be consistent, regardless of external circumstances. Let me give you a little secret. Most people wait for inspiration. They wait for the right moment. They wait for motivation to hit them like a lightning bolt. But success doesn't work that way. Motivation comes after action. It's the act of showing up every day, even when you don't feel like it, that builds momentum and brings motivation. The more you commit to growing 1% each day, the more motivated you'll become. It's a snowball effect. The 1% mindset is a mindset of patience. You're not in a rush. You understand that growth takes time. It's a gradual process, not an overnight miracle. And that's the beauty of it. You don't have to change everything today. You just have to improve a little bit every single day. That's how success is built. Think of the most successful people you know. What do they all have in common? It's not their talent or their intelligence. It's their mindset. They understand that success is a journey, not a destination. They don't focus on the big picture all the time. Instead, they focus on the small, incremental improvements they can make every day. The 1% mindset also means embracing failure as part of the process. When you're committed to growth, you don't see failure as something to fear. You see it as an opportunity to learn. A small setback doesn't define you. It's just part of the journey. In fact, failure often teaches us more than success ever could. So when you fail, you don't give up. You just get back on track and keep moving forward. And here's another important point. The 1% mindset is contagious. When you commit to daily growth, it inspires others around you to do the same. People notice your consistency, your discipline, and your dedication to improvement. And before long, your 1% mindset becomes the foundation for others' growth as well. The power of one person's commitment to growth can create a ripple effect that transforms not only their life, but the lives of those around them. The beauty of the 1% mindset is that it's sustainable. It's not about pushing yourself to the limit every single day. It's about making small, manageable improvements. And over time, those small improvements will add up to something truly extraordinary. One of the most powerful aspects of this mindset is that it removes the pressure. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to be willing to show up, to put in the work, and to improve just 1% each day. That's all. And when you do that consistently, success becomes inevitable. You will start seeing results not because you've pushed yourself too hard, but because you've been committed to the process of incremental growth. The 1% mindset also helps you overcome the biggest enemy to progress, procrastination. When you focus on improving just 1%, you don't feel overwhelmed by the enormity of the task ahead. You break it down into manageable pieces. You don't look at the entire mountain, you focus on the next step. And that's the key. Progress is made one step at a time. So what does it take to adopt this mindset? It takes a shift in your thinking. It takes a commitment to small daily improvements, and the understanding that this commitment is what will carry you to success. It takes the belief that even a little progress is still progress. That's the power of the 1% mindset. When you adopt this mindset, you'll stop waiting for the perfect moment. You'll stop waiting for the stars to align. Instead, you'll take action, even if it's just a small step. And that's what will lead to the transformation you're looking for. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step, but it continues with every single step you take after that. Now let me ask you, are you ready to commit to your 1% today? Let me tell you something you've probably already heard before. Consistency is the key. It's the secret that separates the successful from the rest. It's the small daily actions, done day in and day out, that bring results. And while it may seem simple, consistency is often the hardest thing to maintain. Here's the thing, we live in a world that craves instant results. We want things quickly. We want to see the fruits of our labor right away. But success isn't like that. Success takes time, and the only way to get there is through consistency. Now let's get something clear. Big efforts every once in a while won't cut it. You can't show up once a week or even once a month and expect to see massive changes. You can't put in a burst of effort and then take weeks off, thinking it will all magically come together. It doesn't work that way. Success requires daily effort. Think about it like this. If you wanted to get in shape, you wouldn't go to the gym for a few hours and expect to be fit for life. You would need to show up every day, doing the right things, even on days when you don't feel like it. Some days will be tough. Some days you'll be tired. But consistency, even when it's hard, is what will carry you through. Consistency is the backbone of the 1% rule. It's what takes those small daily improvements and compounds them over time into something remarkable. You may not see huge changes today or even tomorrow, but the consistent effort you put in today will pay off down the road. Think about the difference between a flash-in-the-pan effort and a sustained commitment. One is like lighting a firework, bright, intense, but short-lived. The other is like kindling a flame that burns steadily day after day, no matter what. The second is the path that leads to lasting success. It's the path that pays off in the long run. You see, success isn't about big dramatic changes. It's about showing up day after day, even when things don't seem to be moving fast. It's about trust. The trust that the small steps you take every day will eventually lead to the results you want. And that trust is what builds momentum. Consistency builds momentum. The more you show up, the easier it becomes to keep going. Those small wins accumulate, and before long they add up to something substantial. It's not the single big event that creates success. It's the countless small decisions that are made every day. Now, I know what you might be thinking. What about those days when you don't feel like it? We all have them. Those days when you're tired, overwhelmed, or just not motivated. On those days, consistency is what keeps you going. It's the discipline to keep showing up even when everything inside you is telling you to quit. Let me ask you this. Have you ever experienced a day when you didn't feel like doing something, but you did it anyway? Maybe you dragged yourself out of bed for that early workout or kept working on a project you didn't feel like finishing. You might not have wanted to do it, but you did it anyway. That's consistency at work. And that's when growth happens, when you keep moving forward even when the road is tough. Here's the thing, results don't always happen immediately. They don't always come with a big bang. But if you stay consistent, you'll look back and realize that all those little steps have brought you further than you ever imagined. You'll look back and say, wow, I've come a long way. Consistency is what allows you to weather the tough times. It's easy to show up when things are going well, but the true test of consistency comes when the going gets tough, when life throws you curveballs, when setbacks arise. That's when you'll see the true power of consistency. It's in those moments when you don't feel like it that consistency becomes your strongest ally. Consistency also helps you build habits. and habits are the key to success. It's easier to stick to something once it becomes a habit. And the only way to turn something into a habit is through consistent effort. So even on those days when you don't feel like it, remember, consistency is what will turn your actions into habits, and those habits will shape your future. And let me be clear about something. Consistency doesn't mean perfection. It means showing up, doing the best you can, and continuing to improve over time. It's about having the discipline to keep going even when things aren't perfect. And when you do that, over time, you'll find that your efforts start to compound, and the results you've been striving for begin to materialize. So let me ask you again, what will you do today to stay consistent? What's one small thing you can do today that will move you toward your goals? The answer doesn't have to be grand. It just has to be consistent. That's how you'll build momentum. That's how you'll unlock your potential. That's how you'll make success inevitable. Imagine this. You wake up 5 years from now and your life looks completely different. You've achieved things you never thought possible, and all of it started with one simple decision. The decision to improve, just a little bit, every single day. What you didn't know then, when you made that small commitment, was that those 1% improvements would add up to something far beyond what you could have imagined. You see, when we talk about the 1% rule, it's not just about today or tomorrow. It's about the future. It's about the long-term impact of small, consistent actions. What you do today, the habits you form today, will shape the person you become tomorrow and the tomorrow after that. Those small, seemingly insignificant choices will build the foundation for everything that comes next. Now, I know you may be thinking, what difference can 1% really make? 1% doesn't seem like much in the moment. It's easy to overlook. But here's the truth. That 1% is the difference between who you are now and who you'll be in the future. That tiny, consistent improvement, made every day, compounds over time, and the results are exponential. Take a moment to think about this. What happens when you improve by just 1% each day for a year? That's 365 opportunities for growth. That means you're 37 times better by the end of the year than when you started. Think about that for a second. It's not 37% better. It's 3,700% better. That's the power of compounding, and that's what happens when you commit to small improvements over time. But the truth is, most people never reach their full potential because they never commit to that 1%. They want the big win without the daily work. They want a shortcut. But the reality is, there is no shortcut. True success comes from the small things you do every day. And it doesn't just happen in one area of your life. It affects everything. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're working on your health. Each day you commit to eating just a little bit better and moving just a little bit more. Over time, your energy levels increase, your mood improves, and you start to notice physical changes. You've made small improvements that compound over time. What started as a small change, choosing the salad instead of the fries, turns into a new identity. Someone who values their health, who takes care of their body. And years down the road, you'll look back and realize that those small choices led you to a life full of vitality and strength. The same is true in your professional life. What if every day you worked on just one small skill? Maybe it's getting 1% better at communicating, or learning 1% more about your industry, or just being 1% more productive. The cumulative effect over time is nothing short of extraordinary. After a year, 5 years, even 10 years, you will have transformed yourself into a highly skilled, valuable person in your field. And the opportunities that come with that? They're limitless. You've created a future where success isn't just possible, it's inevitable. But it's not just about skills or habits. It's about the mindset you build through consistent action. By committing to that 1% each day, you're developing a mindset of growth and resilience. You're telling yourself that you are capable of continuous improvement, that you can always get better, and that setbacks don't define you. Over time, this mindset becomes the lens through which you view the world, and it affects everything you do. In your personal life, the 1% rule can transform your relationships. Imagine that you make just a 1% improvement every day in how you communicate, how you listen, how you show up for others. Over time, you'll find that your relationships deepen, your connections become stronger, and you create a network of people who uplift and support you. It's the little things, the small, thoughtful gestures that add up over time to create a life filled with love and connection. You see, the future you is not some distant version of yourself. It's the result of the choices you make today. It's the sum of those 1% improvements, compounded over time, that shape who you become. And when you realize that, when you understand that your future is in your hands, you start to make those small choices with purpose. You start to show up every day with intention. There's something else to keep in mind as you commit to this daily growth. The compound effect isn't just about what you do, it's about what you become. Over time, you will not just have better results in your career, your health, or your relationships. You'll be a different person altogether. You'll have become someone who is disciplined, focused, resilient. You'll have developed a mindset that sees opportunities instead of obstacles, solutions instead of problems. That transformation will be the most profound change of all. Now think about this. What does the future you look like? What does your life look like 5, 10, even 20 years from now if you stay committed to your growth, no matter how small? The answer may surprise you. The person you are today is not the person you'll be in the future. The future you is stronger, wiser, more confident, and more successful because of the 1% improvements you made every day. So the question isn't whether you can change. The question is, will you make the decision today to start? Will you commit to that 1% improvement day after day, even when it seems insignificant? Because those small actions will add up. They will shape your future. And one day you'll look back and realize that those small steps led you to a life you never dreamed possible. The future you is waiting, and it's within your reach. Start today, and let those 1% improvements lead you to the life you've always imagined. Today, this moment, it's the only one you can control. If you're waiting for the perfect time, let me tell you, it doesn't exist. The best time to start is not tomorrow, not next week, not when things get easier. The best time is now. If you want to change your life, you need to make a decision that your 1% improvement starts today. It's not something you'll do someday. No, today is the day. You can look at your current circumstances, your challenges, your setbacks, and use them as excuses. Or you can choose to look at them as opportunities. Opportunities for growth. Opportunities for progress. And that's where your 1% be. The truth is, nothing changes until you take action. It's all too easy to sit back and say, I'll start tomorrow, or I'll do it when I'm ready. But here's the harsh reality. Tomorrow never comes. Today is the only day you can control. So if you want change, it starts right now. It doesn't matter how small the step is. It doesn't matter if it's just one thing. What matters is that you do it. Think about this for a moment. What's the smallest thing you can do today to improve? It doesn't have to be a grand gesture. It doesn't have to be a huge breakthrough. In fact, it's better if it's small, because the smaller it is, the easier it is to start. And the easier it is to start, the more likely you are to stick with it. Maybe it's reading one page of a book, writing down one goal, making one healthy choice. Start small, but start now. Consistency, as we've discussed, is the key. It's not about making huge leaps. It's about showing up every single day. And that starts with today. When you commit to making just 1% improvement every day, you're building something much bigger than just a series of actions. You're building a new identity. You're becoming the kind of person who doesn't wait for opportunities, you create them. You don't wait for motivation. You make it happen. So here's my challenge to you. Don't wait. Don't wait for everything to align. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait until you feel like it. Start right now. Because the moment you take that first step, you've already set yourself on the path to transformation. And as small as that step may seem today, it will become the foundation for everything that comes next. And let me tell you something powerful. Every small improvement you make compounds. As you keep making those small improvements day after day, week after week, month after month, you'll begin to notice that your life is starting to change. Your results will grow, your mindset will shift, your future will be different. But it all starts with that first step, that 1% improvement you make today. When you choose to improve by just 1% each day, you're choosing the future you want to create. You're choosing progress over perfection. You're choosing action over inaction. You're choosing consistency over waiting for motivation. You're choosing success. And success, my friends, is built on the simple, consistent actions that you take day after day. So ask yourself, what is your 1% today? What will you do right now to improve by just 1%? The answer doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be real. It just has to be something you can do right now, something you can build on tomorrow. Because that's how this works. The 1% rule doesn't require perfection. It requires commitment. And it requires action. You have the power to create the life you want, but it begins with today. The 1% starts now. Not tomorrow, not someday, but today. Don't wait any longer. Don't put it off. Start right now and watch how those small, consistent actions change your life. The future is created by what you do today. And today, you are choosing to improve. You're choosing to be better. You're choosing to be better. You're choosing to make today the first day of your transformation. So take that first step. Start your 1% today. Because today is the day that everything changes. And there you have it, the power of 1%. It's simple, yet incredibly powerful. The smallest actions, compounded over time, can lead to extraordinary transformations. And today you've learned that change doesn't have to be a monumental leap. It just needs to be consistent, intentional, and done with purpose. Remember, success is not an event, it's a journey. And that journey begins with one small step. Your 1% improvement starts now. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait for everything to fall into place. Take action today and keep moving forward. Just 1% at a time. If you commit to this journey, if you show up every day, even on the tough days, you will see the power of those small steps. Over time, they will add up to something incredible. You're capable of more than you realize. The future you want is already within your reach, and it's up to you to create it. So, make today the day that you start. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Now, go out and take that first step. The future is waiting for you.